interesting. right, thank you. Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay, good. So thank you for being here. I know the weather is still not ideal. The roads are a little bit recovering, so proud of y'all for making it. Excited. If you weren't here last week, what we talked about was loving others godly. This idea of using moments like spilled water and misplaced mugs as a chance to respond with patience and humility and love instead of frustration. First, we should zoom out and reflect on our own hearts, show kindness rather than seeking short-term wins. And everyone has value in the church, and our role is to create a loving and truthful environment where Christ can change hearts. So I want to recap. We had talked about how God is the perfect example of selfless love, and the three ways that we see that is that he never spilled the cup. Us being humans, we're like a toddler running with an open cup. We barely made it a few steps without ruining everything and distancing ourselves. The second thing is that his love is something that we can't understand fully. He represents the perfect idea of love, and it's a perfect role model, but something we have to strive towards every day. And then thirdly is his love was given to us to give us value. We separated ourselves from the garden, and he restores us, but it's through Jesus that we have our value restored. And it's a relationship gifted from him. So God gave us value. He gifted us a role. He chooses to continually sacrifice and love us to see us come to him. We're going to look at how we can use these ideas tonight to shape how we approach our hearts and go to God to be as close as possible to him in loving God, godly. So each afternoon, about 1:30 or 2, my sweet wife, who left with Stephen, prepares a snack. We have an assortment. I don't know what happened to snacks when I was a kid. It was like, I don't know, you got ice cubes and that was about it. But now our boys get to choose from animal crackers, fruit snacks, there's bars, there's different types of bars, all sorts of things. And so one day, this last week, she chose animal crackers. Put them in the bowl, puts the bowls down. We have two very different types of boys. We have one that you put the bowl down, and he thinks that's just an accessory to his afternoon. He's going to keep playing or watching TV and doing other things, and if he wants to eat from the bowl, he will eat from the bowl. The second boy, you could probably guess who, is he looks at that bowl of animal crackers as a challenge, and he's ready to eat all of them as fast as possible and move on to the next thing. He does that during church too. It's great. So Stephen is the one that devours his food, and he's like a little alligator, trying to identify his next target. And he scans the room. I'm not kidding. He'll finish his food. He'll finish the bite, and he'll start scanning the room like this, slowly. And it's like a submarine with a radar, looking for its next blip, its next target. And it's usually about a 270-degree turn from where he finishes eating to where JB usually sits. And when it returns, the blip happens, and he identifies, there's another bowl of animal crackers. I think I want some more, so I'm going to go get some more. So JB in bliss, he's watching cartoons or playing like he likes to do, somehow doesn't notice this slow-moving blob of a toddler headed towards his animal crackers. And Stephen usually gets one or two solid handfuls in, which he's got small hands, but they're still handfuls. And then JB will inevitably, hey, that's mine. What are you doing? And he looks at us, reporting it like it's a robbery and we're the police. For some reason, JB forgets that, especially with these animal crackers, we have an industrial-sized canister of them in the kitchen. It's like this massive, I don't know. That's what I'm saying is snacks have gotten to glow up. He forgets that we have more. We could easily and quickly get them. He gets fixated on his brother getting something he didn't deserve. After all, they were JB's crackers, right? So it reminds me of the story of the prodigal son in Luke 15. So we're going to look at Luke 15, 11 through 32. It's the parable of the prodigal son. If you want to turn there, I'll give you a second.
was it again?
Luke 15, 11 through 32. I'm only going to say it one more time. It's the parable of the prodigal son. And he goes like this. There was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me. And he divided the property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all that he had and took a journey into a far country, and there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went, and he hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything, which, if you've ever been around animals and you see what they eat, you have got to be like next level hungry for what they have. Verse 17 continues, it says, But when he came to himself, he said, How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son, so treat me as one of your hired servants. So he rose up, and he comes to the father. But while he was still a distance off, his father sees him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, so I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to celebrate. Now his older son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the servants and asked what these things meant, and he said to him, Well, your brother has come home, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound. But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him. But he answered his father, Look, these many years I have served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me even a young goat, that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours comes, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you kill the fattened calf for him. And he said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. So last week, we took the story of the Good Samaritan, and we shifted the perspective, okay? We saw it from a little bit different angle, and I wanted to try it again with this story. I feel like a lot of times we have this third-party view. I imagine, father over here, son over here, and, story plays out. But what we don't always see is the older son's perspective. It's called the prodigal son, but it might need to be called the prodigal sons. The elder son is later found to be frustrated about the young son who forsought his inheritance, and now does not deserve a fattened calf or gold ring or robe. And at this point, technically speaking, the younger son has forfeited or received his inheritance, so it's no longer in the house of the father, meaning this older son was legally, it was his, the rest of the money was his, basically. He had what was left. And so I could imagine the older son being frustrated, like, hey, you're celebrating this dude who messed up and took everything and ran off and squandered it, but that's my money. That's mine. And he might be thinking, like, why does he get this? That's all mine. I checked all the boxes for being a good son. I've done everything opposite of the son who left. He left, I stayed. He took the inheritance, considering you dead, and I stayed. He committed every sin possible, but I was faithful. But do we actually think he was faithful in every way? I think the son forgets who he's speaking to. The prize is that the father now has 2 sons at home instead of 1. Plus, there's plenty of inheritance to go around. The heart of the Father is to have more people to share in this great inheritance because Jesus paid the price and God is after your heart. And maybe the elder son sees his work being thrown away. He probably had a fit of rage and a flashback to times when he wanted to quit. It was too hot. Work was too much. Maybe his hired hands quit and he's out there doing extra work. But he showed up and got it done. The older son, he did it. But where's his heart at? It was stuck trying to achieve the Father's love. He's trying to achieve something that he already had. It was already there, and it was already given to him. He's already in the presence of the Lord, doing the Lord's work, or the Father's work. But he couldn't see that, and he gets frustrated to the point to where he refuses to celebrate with the father and the younger brother. So I don't know about y'all, I take this, the first leap of thought I took from this story and thinking about it this way was to imagining the feeding of the 5,000 where this young boy comes up and offers some loaves and bread, loaves and fish. Probably know the story. So imagine this young boy being frustrated that Jesus gave away all those fish. And instead of giving the fish back to the boy to sell for money, which that'd be nice, that'd be a lot of money, or having food for years, that's a lot of food, the boy could scream and cry, watching Jesus hand out thousands of fish and loaves, saying, "Hey, that's mine. What are you doing? I brought that to you." What I believe the young boy did in this story is he probably watched Jesus hand out the food, was handed a portion back because he's part of the crowd, so he probably still got to eat. And he went to sit down, and he just grinned as he watched and saw this multitude of people eating from the food that he brought. I think the young boy in this story was being a really good older brother. I think he could have taken this moment and been frustrated or been upset or all he got, technically speaking, was his food back. He got his portion back, returned to him. But what the Father is telling us is that he has plenty. And he isn't taking from your inheritance when he chooses to bless someone else. So where do you think the manna and the quail came from during the 40 years in the desert? When Jesus tells the disciples to cast the nets on the other side, do you think the fish were already there? There's no shortage of anything when you can make something from nothing. God created the universe, and He created the universe that we observe with His voice, and us from the dirt. So did these miracles take from someone else to fulfill? Was the lake empty of fish after, or the quail population scarce? Or was there a big pit of dirt where God scooped up this dirt to make Adam after He, created man? I don't think so. Because He's not a God bound by the laws of physics and the things that we understand, so He could have just done this and outstretches a bone. Or He could have moved in a way, or Jesus tells him to cast the net forms, and the fish form inside. He's not bound to the stuff that we think. There's not like some person under there hiding, sneaking the fish in there, and he had to go to the store beforehand to buy all the fish. So it's not that God's gifts take away from someone else's lives, but God multiplies and blesses more when we choose to sacrifice. We choose to chase the lost son with the Father instead of moping around during the party. We could take the position of the older son, get angry and frustrated that we're doing everything right. Why do they get to be celebrated? But you miss out on the celebration. Or we can join with the Father, we can welcome the lost brother and witness more children coming home. So I think, how do we join the celebration, right? If we are the older brother and we're frustrated and upset, I think Jesus wisely sums it up in Matthew 22:37 through 40. It's the passage where the Pharisees are gathered and they're trying to trip up Jesus. They're trying to have a gotcha moment, which is hilarious when you think about who He's talking to. They don't realize who they're speaking to, and I think they're asking this question. They say, Lord, what is the greatest commandments? And I think they are hoping to have an answer that the older brother would really appreciate. I think they're hoping that they say, that Jesus says every single thing that they've been doing, and they get to walk away with their chest high, their head, chest puffed out, head high, and they feel good about themselves. I think they expect a special present for not being the younger son. So verse 37 says, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments depend all the law and the prophets." And so he's responding to a gotcha moment. And they approach Jesus as if they're trying to tell the crowd and tell Jesus, like, how dare God, or how dare you think that God would do anything else other than what we've been taught? How dare that it be anything other than what we've practiced and participated in for years and years at this point, a very, very long time, the laws of Moses, things that they were taught and brought up to do. At this point, Jesus has preached love and compassion and kindness and truth. So how dare you? It's their religion, after all. It's their customs. It's their salvation. They're complaining and they're moping around. I think that that's their chance to join the party. That's their chance to say, is what we're doing loving? And I think Jesus would have said, if you do it right. And I think they would have said, awesome. Let's do it. Let's keep doing this. So let's learn and grow. But if we put our guard down, what if we put our guard down and just be happy that our brother's home? What if we were acting on behalf of the Father? That in this story is a physical father, but for us is a spiritual father. Why don't we be the ones that run out to meet the lost son? You may sacrifice a coat, a fattened calf, or some crackers, but if we choose to be okay with losing some animal crackers, if we trust God, the God who has shown time and time an inability to overextend himself, to take care part of a pack. What if we chose to use our inheritance to bless and celebrate the lost returning? He could have gone to the party, seen the food out there, and been like, I don't care what it costs. Take it all. Take it all, and let's get more, and let's take from the neighbors, and let's celebrate, because you're right. Someone lost his home. The youngest physically left and returned, but was the eldest ever actually there? Was he truly in the house? I'd imagine he's frustrated, but what if he was still inside to support the brother? What if being inside led his heart to forgiveness after his mind was already there? And then he grew to love his brother and became thrilled that he was back. Because sometimes our heart is not where our head needs to be. And that's okay. I think it's what's so. Your heart's not there, but your head gets you there. It tells you to kick it in gear. And it usually ends up for the better. So I want to look again at how the father responds to both. We have one son, the young son, that returns from being lost and broken. The father runs after him. He chases him down, meets him before he's even there. He puts clothes on him. He gets a party going. I don't know about y'all, but I'd like to go to a heavenly party. I think it'd be pretty fun. The father then approaches his eldest son, and he entreated him. He pleads for the son to join him. And he's even kind enough to explain why he's throwing the party. He doesn't have to. He's the father. He could just throw the party. I mean, it's like when your parents, you do something, your kid says, can I have that? No. Why? Well, because. And you don't really have a good excuse. I'm the parent. You can't do that. I said so. But the father here tells him, the younger son was dead, but now he's alive. And the father probably just wants both of his sons in the party. He's not worried about what exactly happens. And then from here, I'd like taking kind of an imaginative extension past this part of the conversation, because that's where it ends in the Bible. But what happens after this, it's obviously a story and not an actual account of a father and two sons, so we don't know. But I'd like to imagine the father, he pleads for the older son to come in and enjoy the inheritance with his brother and the rest of the house. And I imagine he gets up, walks back in, you hear the music, the door shuts, and we look at the son, the older son, he's probably pouting for a few minutes. And then he realizes, Dad usually puts out a bowl of animal crackers in the party because he knows that I love them. And then he realizes maybe the younger son was just hungry. He thought he was hungry for the world, but praise God, he realized he was actually hungry to be with the Father. It just looked a little bit different. I will not claim to be the smartest person in the 2,000 years since Jesus, or even the last 30 minutes, or I guess 24 minutes of our time together. But it is possible that this conversation is a product of our older brothers, figuratively speaking, learning how to give animal crackers away. May not have been a joyful gift at first, but we are in a time and place where we can honestly view ourselves with at least the intent to allow God to change our hearts. And not to say that any of us here are currently outside of the party, but it's more of a chance to self-reflect and later on make sure we don't miss out on the party. And we learned last week about loving others godly, and I believe that maybe this is just an inkling of what Jesus was talking about. I think it hinges on the question of what if we learned to love others godly so we could love God godly. Thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed last week. I hope you enjoyed tonight. I'll either be back up here at some point or I won't, so we'll see. But thank you so much. Be safe and be warm and nothing else. Say a prayer and we'll be dismissed. Bow your heads with me. Dear Jesus, thank you so much. Thank you for just the ultimate cache of wisdom and the presence of you, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. I pray right now that you would just impart wisdom on us, whether through what I said or the worship or interactions or fellowship, the food, whatever it is, Lord, that you would just bless our time together now and from now on. Please keep everyone safe, happy, and healthy, and give us a great rest of our week. Bless those who are in need of physical or any other kind of help, Lord. Just be with them and just keep us near you, Lord. Allow us to forsake what we need to forsake and see you in your kingdom. And it's in Jesus' holy name I pray. Amen. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Joel. Good job, Joel.
Thank you.